Good evening and welcome to the February edition of Your Questions Answered. I'm Michael, KB9VBR,
And I'm Dave, KZ9V.
and we're going to say Joe is on assignment this month. So, Dave, thank you so much for filling in at the last moment for in Joe's hot seat. So,
Yeah,
that
no
means
problem.
that means you got to be the funny one tonight, or do I have?
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. Well, I won't be grinding any gears. I can feed you the punchlines, and you can do all the laughing.
There we go. There we go. Someone's going to have to make the jokes, and I guess it's going to have to be me tonight. But hey, if you're watching this on the replay, welcome and thanks for finding us. We got a good show planned this evening. Dave's going to talk about his recent trip to Hawaii, and he activated a few parks. We'll talk about that at the bottom of the hour, and.
Okay.
Got plenty of questions. In fact, if you've got any ham radio related questions, drop them into the chat, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. You know, we've had Dave on the show before, and sometimes he gives a little bit different perspective than what Joe does. So
Yeah,
hey,
you get the old man perspective. Yeah,
the old man perspective. There we go.
Yeah.
So, I'm gonna look here. We'll welcome some everybody that's we got a lot of people filing in here. Chuck, good evening, and Alexander, and our buddy Brent, CQ. Hey, we're going to talk about CQs in a little. We got that one kind of queued up. Alan, the buddy Mike from across the river. Good evening, Mike. And greetings from the Mike Delta, good old Maryland. I love the Baltimore area. That's a cool city.
The Mike across the river, is he in Minnesota?
No. He's across town. He's on the west side of town. So
okay.
I live on the east side of the Wisconsin River, and he's on the west.
All right.
He's close enough. We could have a studio audience, and he could sit in and watch, I suppose.
There we go.
Yeah, Richard says to hit that like button if you haven't already. That's right. Shameless promotion. Like and subscribe and share and do all of that for us and help spread the love. It really helps a lot. Rodney and Brent again. So thank you. And the buddy 45. Hey kids. Oh my God. I guess I'm the young one here today. So Clint and Ellen, and 6 more weeks of this terrible Florida weather.
Oh my God.
I'm sure your Florida weather is still better than what we're experiencing in Wisconsin. January was surprisingly warm, which was beautiful. We were about 5-10 degrees above average highs. We were consistently hitting 30 degrees in January, which is unheard of. So
still terrible, but it's unheard of. Yeah.
Yeah. So this week, it's high pressure comes in and everything just sort of plummets. And it was single digits a couple of days. In fact, I think tonight it's supposed to get down to 15 below. And tomorrow's high is only 3 degrees.
Yeah,
with
15 below is just the air temperature tonight.
Yeah, they're going to have
30. The wind was blowing today, so I don't know if it was going to blow again tonight. It could be bad out there.
Minus 30 wind chills is what they're talking about. So.
Yeah. Put another log on the fire.
Yeah. So as Dave says, good evening, staying warm. Yeah, we're trying to. Things are a little bit chaotic here in the house. You probably see it. I didn't release a video this week. That's because I've got a house full of contractors. We're getting our bathroom renovated, and we got a 100-year-old house, and so this is quite the project, to say the least. I'll kind of show you what we're dealing with. So. The first thing is, they pulled out the tub, old cast iron tub. Oh man.
Was it a clawfoot tub?
No, it wasn't a clawfoot tub. but it took 3 guys to carry it down the stairs.
Yeah.
That was quite a thing. Cast iron plumbing, that had to be removed because, as one of the plumbers said, you got a ticking time bomb here. So our waste lines were replaced with PVC. Our water supply lines from the basement up to the bathroom, all PEX. So once they close up the walls, our plumbing is good for another century. New flooring. You can kind of see the kitchen underneath. And some of the new PVC. Big day today. The new tub got roughed in. Nice fiberglass tub. So we're really excited. So that's what's going on at our place. And I saved a memento of we'll see in the chat if anybody knows what this is.
You got to hold it up and down. There you go.
Yeah, I know. It's if I hold it closer to the camera, it's going to be out of focus. So I'm going to try to get it closer to my face here, so it's a little bit sharper. But yeah, if anybody can, if anybody knows what one of these are, we'll have to give you some kind of a prize or something. But I got a ton of this inside the house.
Yeah. Fire inspector's nightmare.
Actually, it's not that bad, according to the electrician. So it's he said as long as you leave it alone and you don't stuff insulation around it, you'll be fine. It's got to be in free space, and it's okay.
Was the wire insulated? It probably had cloth insulated wire.
It's a cloth insulation. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So all right, we got some questions here. So we'll start hitting. Yeah, so talk about this old house. This is this old house. Our house was built in 1919. So it's a lot of surprises hidden in these walls. Drain plug knob, nope, unfortunately. Old fuse, nope. And Chris Nielsen's got it right. Looks like knob and tube, and that's what it is. Yep, an old knob and this is a knob and tube insulator. So this would be the knob part. It would go onto the joists, and see there's a little groove here, so the wire would wrap around this. And then when you needed to go through a joist, there was a ceramic tube that would act as an insulator through the joist. I didn't save any of the tubes on the tube part of the knob and tube, but we got a knob here. So and the house is full of it.
It was a lot easier to put in than conduit, that's for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy stuff. So yep, it's just a lot of people correctly guessed the knob and tube there. So unfortunately that'll be an issue someday that will have to be addressed, but not today. But hey, let's get to some questions. You ready for that, Dave? So
go for it.
All right. Yeah, Rodney asks, question about these 49-to-1 baluns, 100 watts on eBay for a sale on $18. Any experience with these or any opinions? I have not had any particular experience with them, so I guess I don't know. I'd have to look. If you want to, Rodney, if you've got a link that you can kind of throw in the chat, maybe we can take a little bit closer look at them. But hopefully. That's something I don't know. And does my face look out of focus? It looks like my camera's not focusing on my face. So let me see if I can get it to sharpen up here. I think it's just, it got a little bit crazy with the with the knob and tube. So we're gonna see if we can, come on. All right.
Yeah, those 49-to-1 baluns. There
There we
are a
go.
lot of them. There's a lot of them
Yeah.
that you can buy, different manufacturers, and so I'm not sure exactly which one he's got. I haven't seen any for
Mhm.
$18, but
No,
the
I
thing you got to be
found.
careful. The thing you got to be careful of is the power rating. You know,
Yeah.
some of these use a very small toroid, and then they try to run 150 or 500 watts through it, and saturates the toroids.
hmm And that's I've seen that. I think Amazon. There's some Chinese sellers that have got these real small transformer kits, and I think the instructions say that you can wire it for a 1-to-1, 4-to-1, or a 9-to-1, and the toroid is just tiny. It's really small. Uh, but
Yep.
you could I think you can do 100 watts, maybe sideband. It's as long as you're not you know key down for a very long period of time and the thing starts to saturate. I bought one of those
Mhm.
kits, and actually they were kind of fun to wire, except that the toroid is really small, so it's a little bit of a it's you got to have good a dexterity, but it's for an $18-19 kit. It wasn't that bad, and I had it. I think I did that last winter. I had it up, made a few contacts with it, but I replaced it with a much a beefier type of toroid
Yeah.
that I
You
wound
know,
myself.
right. You know, I built that kit, that ARRL kit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in fact, they're still selling it, and that one's rated at 250 watts single sideband,
Yeah.
and I've pushed 75 watts of like FT8, and I think I even ran 100 watts CW, and I never saturated the toroid.
Okay.
You know, that's a good kit. I think they sell it for about $75, and it's
Yep.
very easy to build. So
Yeah. Yeah. They said the cheap ones probably use a 140-43, maybe good for 100-watt sidebands, but no longer than that. Um, the 9-to-1 that I'm using at home, I wound on a 140-43. I do remember that. And actually, I was with that. They say I ran 100 watts on the winter field day last week, and I was going great guns with it, and I did not
mhm.
notice any saturation, but then or any heat buildup either. But then it was such a cold weekend too that probably helped a little bit.
Oh yeah.
So I would say
Mhm.
100 with a 140 sized toroid, you can easily go 100 watts with it. Sideband for an extended period of time. I'd probably CW or digital, probably 50, no more than 50 watts, full duty, you know. So, yeah, 240-43, the best. That's gonna,
Mhm.
a 240 by 43, you're 100 watts, FT8 all day, all night. No
Yeah.
problem with that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and that's what's in the ARRL kit.
Yeah,
It is.
that's a good size. That's a good size toroid, and you could actually stack two of the 140s and and that would give you the really good a really good power handling. I think if you stack two 240s, you can go full legal limit. So um,
Mhm.
so all right. Yeah, someone asked, yeah, how does saturation become apparent? Climbing SWR typically
Mhm.
is the easiest way to notice it. If you're using um, a tuner with your like I was using a random wire antenna, um, so I have it connected to an auto tuner. If it would to start to saturate, that'd be the first thing I would see is the SWR start to rise, because that's usually the first thing.
Yeah, yeah. When you key down, you'd see the SWR climb, and then
Hmm
when you let off the key, the next time you key up, you'll see the exact same thing, because when you're not keying, the saturation goes away and the thing cools down a little bit. So
Yep.
every time you key up, you'll see it start to climb.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, so that's typically what the so yeah, so Yeah, Paul would restrict such a unit to about 50 watts sideband. So, it's, I guess, it depends too on the thickness of the wire, but if you've got, if you're watching it, if you're using it, you're watching it with a meter, you should probably be okay. So, all right, I'm going to grab another question here. Let's see. Calvin asks, what do you think would be the best wire antenna? I don't have the funds for a tower and beams right now. Well, I'll tell you what, I don't have the space for a tower and a beam right now. and I know I'll let Dave chip in a minute, and I know that you're not running a big tower either, are you?
No. I have an XYL issue there. Yeah, she says she's not a ham, and she says no towers.
Yep.
And I'm afraid of heights, so they got that going for me too.
I think the best, there's really no one best wire antenna. It really depends on a few different factors, and namely the biggest factor is, what do you have available for space? I mean, are you talking about somebody like Dave who's got 20 acres of land? Or are you talking about me who's got a 60 by 120 residential lot? So those are going to be kind of like the two extremes when it comes to antenna space. So what I run is, I've got two antennas. My original antenna is a G5RV over the house, and if you've got limited space, you're going to be thinking about multi-band antennas. So that would be, the G5RV makes a good works as a great multi-band antenna with the tuner, and then my other wire antenna that I've kind of laid out along the edge of the property line is a random wire end fed 74 feet of wire in a sloping configuration with the 9-to-1 transformer, and they work well. I have no problems using on any bands between 10 and 80 meters, which is what I want. And that's the other consideration about antennas, is you need to consider what bands you want to operate on, and which ones, and we all want to operate on all the bands, but which ones are primary for you. I mean, 75, 80 meters is important to me, because I like to get onto some of those Aries Races communication nets. And then the other bands, 40 and 20 for the longest time, they're like the bread and butter of ham radio. But now that the sunspot cycle is heating up, I really like getting onto 15 and 10 meters. And my G5RV wasn't very good with the way I've got it installed on those upper bands. So that random wire really picks up the slack there on that. So
I think band dexterity is a big deal, because the propagation conditions change. It's different at night than it is during the day, and so you need to have options. And everybody starts with a dipole. Really, that's the place to start. And so I started with a dipole many years ago between a couple of pine trees, and then you go from there. And the fan dipole is pretty sweet. It's easy to build, and you can put multiple elements on there, and pretty soon you've got 2, 3, 4, 5 bands with that. So fan dipoles are easy. I actually have a fan dipole in my garage attic. So for people that have no yard and no space, check your garage attic. You might be able to put a 20-meter inverted V in your garage attic.
Well, there you go.
I have it's a fan dipole with a 20-meter element and a 6-meter element in the garage. And the reason I put it there is actually because I wanted to have an antenna that I could use when the weather was kind of dangerous. Because the chances of getting hit by lightning pretty low inside your attic.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. The best wire, and this one takes a lot of space, but I have a 160-meter full wave horizontal loop.
Oh,
and that thing is it's amazing, especially for receive.
yeah.
Because if you get it out in the country like mine is, about 300 feet away from the house, 160-meter loop, it hears everything. It absolutely hears the world.
Yeah.
It transmits well. It would transmit really well if I could get it up a little higher, but it's only about 22 feet up. But it's a 6-sided loop, so it's pretty hard to hang a wire that big. But
Yes.
and in fact, the ice took it down with a storm, the ice storm in December. I was pretty disappointed because that's the first time that the ice has taken that one down. And it's really small wire. It's copper clad steel wire, 18 gauge. So it's pretty resistant to the ice and snow and stuff like that. But we had a bad one in December, and down she came.
Yeah, fortunately all of my antennas stayed up on during that ice storm, so knock on wood, it's I've been lucky so far. Space wise though, that those full wave loops are just totally amazing. I think yours is fed with coax, but if you can feed it with open feed line like ladder line, then they become just even more efficient.
Well, I have coax that goes out to the tuner. And then I have an LDG tuner, tuner out at the end of the 300-foot coax, and then a very short run up from the tuner to the loop. So it works really good. But the end-fed half wave, got kind of interested in that because of POTA and the activations. But I came home and I strung one of those up. It's very similar to your 9-to-1 random, and it's a long wire. It's about 135 feet long.
Yep.
So I can utilize that without a tuner from 80 all the way up to 6 meters.
Nice.
So that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, and end-fed half waves, if you're just starting out and you're looking for a multi-band antenna, the end-fed antennas, either with the random or as 45 calls them, not at all random wires, because no, they're not random. Let's call them the end-fed non-resonant antenna, or the end-fed half-wave resonant antenna. Both of them, they've got that advantage that you can put the transformer at your house, and then the wire can go out on the backyard if you've got like a suburban lot. It's great. It's great for that. You only need one support instead of maybe 2 or 3 supports for dipole antennas. So or that G5. So think those are really good choices. If you're just starting out, you're looking for an easy antenna to deploy that doesn't cost a lot of money. And there's so many different brands of end-fed antennas, and they all work the same to the most part. It's just that, it's how they're constructed, it's and their power handling capability that really sets, brand A and brand B and brand C apart. So think about if you're looking for an inexpensive type of antenna, something like that gives you multi-band coverage with a minimum amount of fuss.
Yeah. So to answer his question, there is no perfect wire choice. Everybody's circumstances are different, and you go with what you have access to. So
absolutely, it's what the best antenna is, the one that gets you on the air and fits in your space. So Alexander asked, what Aries Races nets on 80 meters? We've got the Wisconsin Aries Races net that meets every Sunday morning at 8 o'clock a.m. on 3967 kilohertz. So anybody's welcome to check into that net. You don't have to be a member of Aries and Races. So it's a fun net. And then there's other traffic nets that also happen on the 75 and 80 meter nets, like there's the Badger Emergency Net, the Wisconsin Sideband Net, that they pass the weather net, that they all pass messages. So they're traffic, NTS traffic nets. So, and you'll typically find those down there on 80 meters. So, all right. Dave, you were talking about fan dipoles, and Nathan here asked, do you have any experience with a fan dipole? I've been looking to build one for 20 and 10 with some thin wire. Do you know the spacing between the elements? So I have worked with a 40 and 20 meter fan dipole, and they're good. For the most part, they're good antennas. If you're building one, I think you got to work on the there's always going to be a little bit of interaction between those elements. So you get the 40 meter one up and adjusted, and then you add the 20 meters, or in your case, the 20 meter, and then add the 10 meter, and then when you put that second one in, then you end up kind of tweaking back and forth between the two to just kind of find those sweet spots.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. And I've built them in several ways. One way is to put all of the wires in parallel. So you start with the longest one on the top, and then another one maybe a foot below it, and another one a foot below that. And so they're all basically in parallel.
Mm-hmm.
I've had better luck making them perpendicular. So like the 20 meter one maybe this way, and then the 10 meter one this way. And
okay.
So you can get crazy. You could put 3, 4, 6, 8 elements on there for all the different bands. But I've had my best success with those has been to kind of spread them out rather than running them all in parallel. But either way will work.
Yeah. And running in parallel, the spacing really isn't that critical. It's because up at the feed point, they're all going to be connected to the same feed point.
Yep.
And then they just sort of, they jazz hands, spread out. So it doesn't have to be much, like you said, like a foot or so. So it's
Yep. And you can use like just little plastic tubing for insulators to separate it, because you don't want the wires to touch. Once they start fanning out, they just, you got to keep them separated. So if you have any slack in the line, or you don't want the wind to blow and have the wires touching, but it's pretty forgiving. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty broad band too.
Yes, they are.
Just like a regular dipole. So.
Yeah, and Nathan was looking at a point on the top with differing angles coming down. So I think that's a good idea, and that's the traditional fan dipole deployment. And then with Dave, putting his elements perpendicular to each other, it's sort of different, a little bit.
Yeah, my first trip to Hawaii, that's what I took with me, and it had elements for 20 and 40. And then when I was in Hawaii, I actually added elements for 30. So it had a feed point up in a palm tree, and then it just ran off to, whatever bushes or things were available. It worked. Yeah, it worked.
Well, that's good. So, yeah. Great. So we're kind of coming here towards the bottom of the hour here. So I just want to remind everybody of a few things before we move on and talk about Dave's trip. But let's see. There's a couple of things that have really helped keep the wheels moving here on the channel. And of course, number one is the like and subscribe. As other people say, boop that's a like button. It's helps the channel in just its little ways. But also there's a special group of people that really help us out, and that's our patrons over at patreon.com. So just want to welcome our new members for the that joined in the last month on the supporter level, Andrew and Greg White. Thank you for your support. And on the friends level, Raymond Speltz and Dave Parker, and that's your support is greatly appreciated, and we can't do it without you. But actually, the people that really help the most are our top level, the associate producers, Dave White, Brian Liebig, Lyle Rangray, and our newest associate producer, Terry Brown. So thank you so much for supporting the channel. believing in the mission to inspire and educate the amateur radio community. It's greatly appreciated. And of course, if you can become a patron just by going to patreon.com/KB9VBR antennas. So, and with that, also one third way is to help us out by one of our, purchasing one of my antennas. KB9 VBR antennas are simple, effective, and affordable VHF and UHF antennas for amateur radio, MERS, public safety, and GMRS. Made in the USA with quality parts. Get yours online at jpole-antenna.com. All right. Joe always complains that commercial is too short because it doesn't give him a chance to get up, stretch his legs, and grab a drink.
Yeah. Bathroom break.
Yep, absolutely. So
you need a bigger product line, so you need a longer advertisement. Speaking of that, how's your you're going to start marketing 9-to-1 end feds? How's that coming?
Yes, it's I've got the plan just about put together. It's things just kind of went crazy over the holidays, and then we got into this remodeling project, and it's been kind of chaotic. So I'm still thinking about doing it, putting together the 9-to-1 kits, and hopefully I can get some prototypes out before spring happens and things get super busy again. So so it's still it's still in the works, but it's I just don't have a I just don't have a date yet. So 45 says sales will skyrocket if you add a small bag of curds with each order. Hey, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
We'll have to do that. Free cheese curds with every order.
Yeah. You can do that with your J poles right now. There you go.
I could probably do that. Squeeze a few in there. So. Speaking of J poles, Jeff asks, would a roll-up J pole hung horizontal work for 2-meter sideband? Yes, it will. The J poles are a vertically polarized antenna because its orientation is vertical, but lay it on its side, and you'll get that horizontal polarization, which is preferred for sideband operation. Nice thing too is when you put your antenna on the side, it doesn't affect the SWR at all. So from what I've found, you're going to get the same readings, with the vertical than you will in the horizontal plane. So it's easy to, if that's something you're looking for, just laying that antenna on its side is an easy way for horizontal polarization. So. All right. Richard asks, how may I prevent RF from messing with my computer weather station, mostly on 10 to 40 meters? Real mess. This can be a challenge, and I think it's usually what it involves doing is adding a lot of chokes in ferrites to just about every wire to keep RF from traveling up those wires and whatnot. So if your weather station has a wire, that goes up to the sensors, you're probably going to have to put a choke, where that sensor wire goes into your station. You may need to use some snap-ons onto the power cables. Same with the computer here. You might need some chokes on the power cables, on the USB cables. I was running the winter field day, and every time I transmitted on 40 meters, my USB connection to my transceiver would go out. So I'm gonna have to choke that too now. But
And it's usually power related too.
hmm
The further you can get your transmit antenna away, like my horizontal loop 300 feet from the house, that solves all those problems. Most people can't do that, but if you get your
yeah.
antenna further away, that helps. If you
hmm
reduce your RF output, that helps.
hmm
If you're running a full kilowatt and a half, your problems are much more difficult to solve than if you're running 100 watts or 10 watts. So
Yep. And look how your cables are running. Are they running parallel or alongside transmission cables? Um, that just that simple orientation so that those types of cables are perpendicular to each other will help to kind of mitigate the R that RF from inducting things. So it's yeah, I think Richard says, "Oh, the smoke alarms get it too." So yeah, that can be tough. It's just going to filters on the radio or the transceiver. Use a what are they high pass filter.
yeah,
So you know
you know
or
the,
Mhm.
the toughest one I've got, believe it or not, if I use that 20-meter dipole that's in my garage attic, if I run over 50 watts, either a CW or data mode, it trips the GFI on the heated floor in my bathroom.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, well, think about the heat. The heated floor has all those wires going back and forth,
Yep.
in the ceramic tile. It's the ideal antenna for picking up RF. It's like
Oh
an
sure.
RF magnet, and so the GFI trips. I haven't figured out
Yeah.
a way to solve that one because the wiring is all inside the wall, so it's not like I can put any ferrites on there. So
hmm
yeah, that's a tricky one.
GFCIs are notorious for that, and I think sometimes it depends on how they were installed too, but they're really sensitive. If you get that little bit of surge in your house wires, that's enough to trip those GFCIs. So
Mm-hmm.
it's yep, I know exactly what you're talking about. I haven't had much of a problem with that. Fortunately, most of my RFI problems have been pretty well limited, and our switch to digital TV from the old analog got rid
Oh
of a
yeah.
lot of got
Oh,
rid of a lot of
oh,
RFI.
oh yeah. As soon as everybody hooked up the cable and took their antenna off the roof, that solved a lot of problems.
Yep, yep.
Mm-hmm.
And too with the tele, we used to have one of those, years ago, the old style cordless phones. You would get that it would always pick up the voice, especially on 40 meters. So I remember was one time, my wife was talking to her mother on the telephone, and I was on the radio, and all of a sudden in the cordless phone you hear like the voice of the
Yeah.
devil. And of course, the mother-in-law says, "Well, what is your husband doing now?" So, yeah,
Yeah.
fortunately, yeah, the march of technology has really made a difference. So, all right, and Dave. So,
Yeah.
I think this is a good time to kind of talk about your trip. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you and you had a pretty good vacation this last month. So,
Yeah. 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 I have the luxury of having one of my daughters lives in Hawaii. So the bad part is that I have grandchildren that are thousands of miles away.
mhm.
The good part is that if you have grandchildren to visit in January, Hawaii is a wonderful place. So, yeah, yeah. And they've been living there about, oh gosh, I lose track of time, but I'm thinking of probably 10 or 15 years.
Oh
My
wow.
oldest granddaughter there, I think she's 12 now.
Mhm.
So we make that grueling trip to Hawaii pretty regular. And COVID kind of messed that up. So the
Yep.
last trip prior to this January was actually back in, I think, 2020, right before COVID went crazy. So we missed a couple of years, but we were back there in January of this year for the first time, and it was great. It was the first time that I've actually pursued POTA, Parks on the Air on the island. I'd taken the radio, the HF radio, to Hawaii over the last 10 years or so. I took one. The first year it was a 5-watt HF rig, and I made about 50 contacts during the 2 weeks that we were there. And then the next year I brought a little bigger one, a little better one. This year I actually took my FT891 with the intention of hitting the parks as hard as I could while we were there, and specifically trying to activate with CW, because for guys that are in Parks on the Air, a lot of them are trying to earn the Worked All States Award. And a lot of states are pretty difficult. Hawaii is one of them. And Hawaii is particularly difficult for CW because there are, number one, there's not very many activators in Hawaii, but there are really, really, really few CW activators. So that was my goal. And I was semi-successful. Let's put it that way. Yeah. I wound up activating, I think, 5 parks, and probably made about, if I remember right, a little over 300 contacts. Ooh. But the CW ones was probably only about 100. So we'll try again next year, see if we can do a little better on the CW. But it's interesting, the difference in the required signal strengths between FT8, which is extremely popular in both POTA and Hawaii, and CW. You need about, I'm going to say about 10 or 15 dB more signal for a successful CW contact than you do with FT8. And in fact, we were on the phone one day, trying to make the POTA contact between Hawaii and Wisconsin, and we I had you on the phone, and I'm like, okay, here's the frequency I'm on. I'm sending dots now, dot 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 dot, and you're hearing nothing.
I could. We were on 10 meters, and we couldn't make that connection with CW.
Right, and so then we switched modes on the exact same frequency. We switched to FT8, and voila, there it is. It's on the waterfall, and we made the contact, and so you just need more signal, and like all Parks on the Air activations are always compromised in some way. Usually the antenna is a compromise, and the power level that you're running and whatnot. So it's tricky. The other thing I found out or discovered is that just fell out of here. Hang on.
All right. So while Dave's fiddling with his ear, I'm going to show this map here. This is what Dave did. So middle of the Pacific, and
so we're on the island of Kauai, which is the northernmost island, sometimes called the Garden Island. That's where my daughter lives. And that map has over 300 contacts, and you can see it. It's in every direction from the middle of the Pacific. And I was trying to get back to the mainland to satisfy all these Parks on the Air hunters. But the location that I am most often on that island is on either the west side or the south side. And the highest peaks on that island are well over 4,000 feet. They're old volcanic eruptions, and it causes quite a problem to get over those peaks. And so I had really good success to the mainland from the parks that were on the east side of the island, but not
Okay.
so much from the south.
Hmm.
And you can see there's a lot of Japanese activity,
Yep.
and the Japanese are huge FT8 fans. So when you look at the waterfall, whether it's on 20 meters or 15 meters, 40 meters, whatever it is, the waterfall is actually more populated and more crowded on that island out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean than it is sitting in my shack here in Wisconsin,
Jeez.
which is, it seems impossible,
Yeah.
but it's primarily because of the thousands of Japanese stations that are using FT8. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
great.
because what happens is when you're trying to activate on POTA, I was running 50 watts
Yep.
and generally using like a 17-foot vertical,
Yeah.
which is a kind of a compromise. And you're trying to get across the ocean. That's a long shot. But what compounds the problem is that the band is basically a 3 kilohertz section of spectrum that
Mm-hmm.
all of the FT8 guys are crammed into. And there's really space for about 30.
Yeah.
And so everybody's piled on top of each other. And so what happens is you find your little clear spot, you call CQ, you get inundated immediately with like 10 or 15 calls. You're like, oh, this is sweet. But you respond, and by the time you respond, and then they respond to you, your little clear spot is gone.
Jeez.
So what happens is you wind up with a lot of incomplete QSOs.
Mm-hmm.
Because between the time you started and the time you finished, even though it's only a couple of minutes, either there was a fade or the interference just glommed in there and either wiped him out
Yep.
or wiped you out.
Yeah.
So FT8 was frustrating. Let me just put it that way. And I think the solution, because FT8's, there's a lot of FT8 haters out there, but FT8's not going to go away.
No, it's
And
not.
so what I think has to happen is there has to be a wider spectrum for FT8 to occupy. That 3 kilohertz isn't doing it anymore. So it needs to be, start with 6 kilohertz and just spread them out a little bit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because we're all we're all interfering with each other. And but anyway, that was pretty cool.
Here, I'll pull up this other one. Here's the luxury accommodations while you're activating. And you made a friend out there on the island. So
yeah, I'm gonna say about 6 or 7 years ago, I ran across a guy on the air one time from here in Wisconsin, and in a single sideband conversation, discovered that Richard WH6S lives on the island of Kauai. And so the conversation was, my daughter lives there and we come and visit once in a while and maybe we could meet up face to face. So Richard says, yeah, okay. So about 6 or 7 years ago, we actually met, and I went over to his shack, and he's got a beautiful big tower. I think he's got like a Force 12 beam, a tri-beam, what do you call it? 3-band beam or whatever.
yeah.
So he throws a fabulous signal all over the world with just 100-watt station. It's very cool. But there he is on the island in the middle of the Pacific, the ideal place, So with Parks on the Air, I'm thinking, wow, this would be great for Richard because he does have portable equipment. And he goes to the beach and he operates with guys that come to visit and whatnot. So I'm like, dude, why don't we go to a park? And this is how it works. So Richard actually brought some equipment to supplement all the equipment that I bring with me in my carry-on bag. And so he went with me to he went with me to 4 of the 5 parks.
Oh, wow.
That I visited. And he was really impressed. He's sold. He thinks this Parks on the Air thing is going to be great. And his wife is he's married to a Filipino, and she thinks she's not a ham either, but she thinks going to the parks and with Richard playing radio sounds like a lot of fun. So,
oh yeah.
So I don't know if Richard has gone and done any activations since I left, but he was pretty excited about it. And I told people on Facebook, on the POTA Facebook page, it says, hey, I'm leaving the island. I did the best I can, but here's what I really accomplished. I recruited Richard. So the only thing is Richard is strictly FT8. He doesn't do any CW. And his single sideband is mostly just checking into nets once in a while.
Okay.
But he's a great guy, and he had a great time. And that was, I think, the 3rd or 4th time that I connected with him on the islands. So yeah, it was great.
Yeah, and there's another Hawaiian ham that's active on Parks on the Air, and that's I think his name is it Andrew? It's a KH6WI.
Yeah, it's Eric Olson.
Eric. Yeah, Eric Olson. And he's another Wisconsin guy. He lives in the Fox Valley. He lived in the Fox Valley. That's where his folks are. But he's I think he's full-time Hawaiian now, but he lives on Oahu.
He lives Oahu. Yeah. I think I don't know if he works in Honolulu or whatnot, but he activates parks on Oahu.
Yep.
And he does it a lot, and he has great success. He's figured out which parks are the best as far as facing the east or the mainland, and which modes work from which parks. He's got it down. I saw a post, I think last weekend, he had like 300 contacts, POTA contacts, just on that one weekend.
Jeez.
So he's he's making a lot of dreams happen. That guy.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Yeah.
Yeah. Eric's in the Navy, I guess. So that's his story. So
yeah. I think he's the guy that he said that if I let him know far enough ahead, he could actually get me onto the battleship Missouri.
Oh, nice.
Which is it's on display at Pearl Harbor. And I think he's the guy that said he has access to the radio room on the battleship. So one of these years I got to do that.
There we go.
That would be fun.
Brent's got them both from Hawaii and Wisconsin. Both run different call signs. I think he switched to a vanity call just last fall. So wasn't that not very long ago. That might have been it.
So one other thing about the Hawaii thing, we did a video, I think about 2 years ago, with my carry-on bag. And at the time I was traveling with my Zygu G90 radio, but the video is still available. But a couple of things have changed. Besides me using the FT891 now, the TSA regulations are always changing with regard to the batteries.
Yes.
And most of us are using these lithium ferrite iron batteries now.
Yep.
And
lithium iron phosphate. Yes.
Yeah. Phosphate. And the rule when we recorded that video, I'm trying to remember now. I think it was 100 watt hours was the limit for the capacity of the lithium battery. And it has to be in your carry-on bag, which it still does. Still has to be in the carry-on.
Yeah.
But they've increased the size limit now to 160 watt hours. And you can carry 2 of those batteries. So when you get to the TSA, make sure it's in your carry-on. Don't put it in your checked bag.
Yep.
Put it in your carry-on. Well, that's not a problem for me because my entire station is in my carry-on.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I get to TSA, I put my blue bag on there, and I've seen what it looks like on the X-ray. It's unbelievable that bag gets through TSA. Yeah, I just shake my head. Oh my God. Yeah, because it's my entire station. The transceivers and the wire antennas and the tuners and the keys and oh my God.
Yeah.
But anyway, that bag slides right through. Here we go. But now my backpack, the backpack has the two lithium battery packs in it, and I don't have the 160 watt hours. Mine are pretty small. I have a 80 amp hour. I mean, a 8 amp hour and a 6 amp hour. So if you do the math, you multiply it by 12, it converts it to watt hours. But anyway, size is not a problem. My backpack goes through the TSA screening. Out of Minneapolis, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
But out of Lahui, on the island of Kauai, that backpack got grabbed. That's like, we got to check this out. Yeah. So you're getting the little special screening. First time that's ever happened to me, which is amazing, because I would think the contents of these bags have to look like something that could explode any minute,
Mm.
But anyway, the backpack gets over there, and the guy looks at me. He says, "What do you got in here?" And I told him, "Well, I got a couple of lithium batteries." And he says, "Yeah, that's what it looks like." So we got to open this up. So they opened it up, and they pulled out the battery packs. They made me disconnect them, and they looked at each one. They got out their little swab, to make sure there weren't any explosive materials on it or what. But it was a complete teardown of my backpack. So I mean, they were really nice about it, and I had no problem with it. But that was a unique experience. First time that
sure.
I had to do that.
Yeah, years ago when I was traveling for work, it's always carrying computer equipment, and that same thing would always happen. So it's I get you there. So all right. So any last words before we move on? If there's just any quick advice you want to give somebody if they're planning a trip, to the islands or something like that. So.
No, not really. We talked about try to find a park that faces the mainland, because most of the islands have volcanic peaks on them, and so when you get on the backside of a 4,000 or 5,000 foot peak, that's a problem. The closer you can get to the water, the better. Most of the parks, at least on Kauai, almost all the parks are on the perimeter of the island.
Oh,
so
nice.
You're almost always like facing the ocean. And it's really good. But be prepared to do either FT8 or CW. Eric works a lot of guys on single sideband, but if CW is hard or difficult compared to FT8, single sideband is 10 times more difficult. So you need a better antenna, higher power, and be prepared. If the propagation, one thing that has changed dramatically in the 10 years is the solar cycle.
Yes.
Okay, the first couple years, it was exclusively 40 meters and 20 meters. That's not the case anymore. Actually, 40 meters is struggling, and 15 and 10 were just absolutely on fire. Even well after sunset, 15 meters was open way into the night.
Nice.
Yeah, it's very nice, because the noise level, the atmospheric and man-made noise, much lower on 15 meters. So this is primo time now. The next 2 or 3 years is just going to get better and better.
Perfect. Think about 10 and 15 meters for your Hawaiian activations, because those are the bands to be on. And that's the band we made our contact on, was 10 meters. We tried on 15, but we just couldn't make it. But 10 was rock solid. So
Yep. And the way that we did that was we got out of the normal FT8 spectrum. You know,
yeah.
we tried it in there and we just got crushed, just
Hmm.
buried. And I said, well, let's move up 10 kilohertz or whatever. And so there's absolutely no interference, no other FT8 signals. You're looking at a barren wasteland on the waterfall. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then you say, okay, I'm gonna send. So okay, you go into that 15-second transmit cycle, and boom, it's like, wow, look at that. We could see
Yeah.
each other immediately.
And I
So
think you had your rig set to maybe like 40 watts, and I
yep,
was set to 75. So it was
yep,
not a lot of power. So
yep. And I was using like a 17-foot vertical, and you were probably on your G5 RV or
yeah, actually
NFET or something. So
I was on the non-resonant antenna, the non-random antenna.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
So
no, it's really good right now. The 10 meters is wonderful.
yeah.
And well, you saw the QSO map. I'm
Yep.
I'm
I'll
I'm
pull that
I'm
up again.
working. I'm working guys in China and Indonesia and New Zealand and it's just
Yeah.
it's unbelievable.
It was crazy. No,
Yeah,
absolutely. It was, yeah. So it's really it's just yeah, the map, you look at that map and it's just all over the place. So
yeah,
it's so thanks a lot for sharing that story with us, Dave. And hopefully that'll get some other people thinking about it, if they're taking a trip like that to maybe consider packing a radio and having some fun on the beach. So
yep. And the weather's great. Oh my God, you saw the pictures. Yeah, nobody's wearing a
yeah.
snowmobile suit or a stocking cap in Hawaii.
Yep, yep. So, all right, we're gonna move on here. We got a couple more questions I wanted to kind of get to. Let's see. Um, all right. So Roy asks, just got a Yaesu FT891. The LDG is Z11, Z100A tuner, and a G5RV Junior. Done a couple of POTA activations and looking at the Wolf River coil taken along with the Mega Tripod. Will that be a good portable antenna for us? It will absolutely be a great antenna. I'm using, both of us use the Wolf River coil with the, I don't have to take it along. I have my own kind of hodgepodge stand or spike that I put I attach the coil to, but gangbusters, 17-foot whip or the 213-inch whip that Wolf River sells works great. With that 213-inch whip, you don't need the coil at all. You just adjust the whip itself so that you're a quarter wave on whatever band, 20 meters and higher, and then use the coil for 40, 60, and 75, 80 meters, and you'll get really good performance. Nice
Yeah.
ground and I think the key, is the ground network. So I use 8 ground wires about 16 feet long, spread out. And I think you do something a little bit different, Dave, don't you?
I
So,
just same length for the radials, but I usually only use 4.
okay.
I use 4. Where that
Mhm.
antenna is really well suited is for 20 meters and up. 20,
Yeah.
17, 15, 10. It's fabulous. It's quick. It's easy to set up. You don't need any external supports, no trees,
Nope.
nothing. The only issue I've ever run into with the Wolf River coil in a park is stretching out the radials. If there's a lot of foot traffic, like other people in the park, the radials can be a tripping hazard.
Yep.
But it's really easy. But where the wire antenna will really come in handy is when you get below 20 meters, because
Hmm.
the Wolf River coil is a compromise at 40, and it's a
Yes.
major compromise at 80. So if you
Hmm.
can hang a wire, whether it's the G5RV that he has or an NFED, a lot of us use these NFEDs, whether it's a 40 meter or 80 meter NFED, those are really sweet,
Oh yeah.
especially at night. at night, if 20 meters closes up at sunset, you need something that can get you through the night. So, yep. So
And
it's
I've
good to
used,
have
yeah,
options, combination, whatever. Different antennas are appropriate for different locations and different
yep.
times of the day.
And I've used my Wolf River at night on 40 meters. Gets noisy, as 40 meters does, but still, but I've never been successful with it on the 80 meter band. It's just, I think the
Yeah.
noise, in the summer months when I'm, the most active with using that one, it's just at night. It just, it just doesn't work. There's just
Well,
way
the
too
whip,
much noise.
the whip is not long enough, so the
Hmm.
efficiency is way down. Most of your RF is getting burned up in the coil,
Yep.
and the ground network, which is totally adequate at 14 megahertz, not adequate at all at
No.
3.5.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
Even
but
the mega
any
don't.
any
Yep.
antenna is better than no antenna. But those wires are pretty sweet at 40 and 80 and 30.
They are. And think about something to, if you're using the mega tripod to stabilize your coil, the whole thing, because it is, if it's breezy, it can fall over. So tent pegs or sandbag or something like that to kind of keep it all upright, especially if it's a breezy day. So,
Well, those telescopic whips are not real sturdy either.
no,
And
they're
the
not.
last thing you want is the wind to put a kink in your telescopic whip. No.
Yep. So it's it absolutely. It's just, Dave runs Wolf River Coil Soda Edition QRP with no problems. It's good. It really is. These these vertical antennas really do work very well for the portable activations. So you get
We
a
used
nice,
it on the bicycle activation. Remember, we had that Wolf River clamp to the back of the bicycle.
to the back of the bicycle, and we were doing very well. It was bands were a little noisy that day because the sun was active, but 20 was it was actually really working really well. Even 40 meters was working well that day. So
that was the only piece of my Hawaiian station that I could not carry on the plane because that telescopic whip, it collapses down, but it's still too big for the carry-on bag. So that I had to convince my wife to put that in her check bag. So she wasn't too happy about that. But.
Maybe you can use pieces of wire, and then you'll just have to figure out how to suspend the wire from a tree for you as kind of your vertical element.
Better yet is to know one of the locals like Richard. If you saw the picture, he actually has it was a fiberglass telescopic pole that was 30 feet tall, and then he's got just like a piece of stranded wire that runs up the side of that pole.
Yep.
And he puts he's got a tuner on the bottom, an auto tuner. Can't remember the manufacturer of that tuner.
I think that looks like an SGC. So.
Yep, it was an SGC like a 3000 or 7000, and so you hook it up, and every time you make a band change, it just automatically switches, and that 30-foot long piece of wire actually acts very much like your random end fed.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's he never changes the wire. He doesn't make it longer, shorter. Makes no attempt to tune that thing. It's all within the tuner itself. So if you know a guy on the island or wherever you're going on vacation, that reduces the baggage that you got to drag with you.
There you go. You got to make some friends. So when you go to these vacation destinations, they've got the gear for you to just plug into.
Yeah, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. So Let's see, I got a question here. I don't know if Eric is still around, but what's a good beginner radio that's portable? Um, that's if you're thinking about HF portable, and I don't know if you are or not, or a different band or whatnot. Um, Good question. I know a lot of people, when they get started out, they're looking to kind of save save a little bit of money, and they get sort of drawn into these QRP radios, like the Zygu or the G90 is not really QRP, a low power,
Yeah.
or some of the other,
So-
but then there's some
yeah.
of these other
Mhm.
ones that are a little bit more on the inexpensive side that aren't as big of an investment as, say, something like the Asus FT891 or one of the other portable ones that just a little bit higher price point. I think that if you're really looking to if you understand with QRP that there can be a certain amount of challenge to it with low power operation, you then go ahead and go that route. But if you want something that's going to get you on the air, that's very versatile, that's at a decent price point, and is highly portable, that rig that I mentioned just a moment ago, the Yaesu FT891, I think is probably going to be very well suited for you.
Yeah. Was this for portable activations, or was this a guy in his shack? I don't remember the question.
Yeah, he doesn't. He just says a good beginner radio that's portable. So, and
That's
any
portable.
and really,
Okay.
any
Yeah.
radio that can be portable if it's got a handle on the sides.
Yeah. 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 Well, think about this. Okay, here, check. Can you see this one in the back here? You know what? For those of you that were around in
Yep.
the 1970s, that's an FT 100.
That's
And
portable radio.
mine's an FT 100 double E, and you can't see it, but on this right hand side over here is a handle.
There you go. See,
So it will run on 12 volts DC. And it has a built-in power supply for both AC power and DC power. And so you can imagine the size of the transformer that's in that power supply.
Yeah.
So that radio, if I remember right, the radio weighs 38 pounds. Okay. Would you consider that to be portable? Well, it has a handle on it.
It's got a handle on it.
Yeah. And believe it or not, probably about 15 years ago, I actually took that thing to a campground more than once. And I didn't try to run it on battery power because it's got tubes in there. That thing would have sucked the biggest battery alive, in no time. So I ran on AC power in the campground, and it was very cool. I was like, wow, this is awesome. But portable, not really.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, when I used to have when I had my ICOM IC718, I took that one. I took that portable. We took it camping a few times. It always came out to field day with me. It was, it's not your 101 big, but it's bigger than it was bigger than my 891, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So, but it's a portable radio. So, any other ones in sort of that same price point, if you're looking used, Yaesu's FT450. New, I know a lot of people like to take their ICOM IC7300s portable.
Right.
So that's that might be an option too.
Yeah, if a lot of guys when they're starting out, they can't buy two radios. They can't buy a portable radio and a shack radio and maybe another radio for their summer home or whatever. I mean, they got to buy an all-purpose radio. And so then you got to make some compromises. I've got a 7300 behind me. That's my main radio here at the rig or at the station. But I do not take that out in the field. Now, could I? Sure. But to me, that radio is a little too pricey and a little too delicate to be taken around. But if I can only buy one radio and I have to use that for everything, I think I'd buy the 7300 because it's a wonderful radio in the shack.
Yeah.
And if you're careful with it, I think you could take it out in the field. That would be my choice for a one and only.
Yeah.
If I could buy two radios, I would probably go with one of the Zygoos. Personally, I've had really good luck with my G90,
Mm-hmm.
and the reason I would recommend that is not because it's made in China, which is unfortunate, but the reason I would go with that is that it's as the radios go, it's fairly inexpensive.
Yeah.
You can get that guy for about $400.
It's
So if you take
I think 400, yeah, about 450, give or take a little bit. So
so when I go out into the field, bad things happen. Things get dropped, things get wet. Um, sometimes the environment's a little questionable, and I would cry for a lot shorter period of time if something happened to my G90 than if I
Yep.
had like a 7300 out there. And so
Absolutely.
I think it's smaller too. It's smaller. It draws less current, so you don't need as big of a battery.
Yep.
But all of these portable radios have a major shortcoming in my mind, and that's that in order to make the radio small, you have to really limit the number of knobs and buttons that are on the front panel.
Mm-hmm.
So if you grew up in the old days with these big old radios with a million knobs, they might have took a while to learn what each knob did, but each knob was right there.
Yep.
And you could tweak, play what we used to call it, play with the knobs. Okay. Yeah, that's how you learn to operate your radio.
Yeah.
And now these little portables, the knobs they aren't there. They're buried in the menus.
Yeah.
It makes it a lot harder to play with it. For people that are just getting into it, I think it's the learning curve is probably a little more difficult with these small radios.
Yeah. A couple other options. I've heard the 991 has come up a couple of times, for a one and only. I think it's very compact. So it's full of featured. Otherwise known as the Shack in a Box.
Yeah.
A friend of Mike,
What is it?
He's got an older IC 7100. So.
Oh yeah, the 7100. That would be a good one and only. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
The 991
discontinued it.
Yeah. What is that now? It's 991A, isn't it?
Yeah, the 991A. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, but that's good. Those are all good choices. So if you're looking for new rigs, lots of them to choose from. So kind of keep that in mind. If you're thinking about a good beginner radio, because I think all of those for portable, all of those are great choices. And just kind of give a shout out here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the used markets are really strong now too. So if you buy a radio and you decide that, well, this isn't really a marriage made in heaven, it's not difficult to sell a used rig for pretty good money now.
No, that is true. That's true. So I sold my 718 a couple years ago, and actually got I thought it was a fair price. So it wasn't. I wasn't asking outrageous dollars for it, but it definitely for its age, it was pretty. The person that bought it still got it at a good value. But hey, we got Eric in the house, so thanks for popping in there. We were just talking about Dave's recent trip to Hawaii. So, and I know that you've have been providing countless Hawaiian contacts for us POTA hunters. So it's greatly appreciated for what you're doing there, Eric. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I asked him, is he the one that can get me on the battleship? I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was him.
Yeah.
I'm going to take him up on that one of these times.
There we go. There we go. Nathan's asking about the Zygu G106. That's a low power radio, 5 watts QRP. I've heard mixed feelings about it. Kind of not quite for prime time firmware. I think they've got a lot of those bugs ironed out, though, hopefully. So we'll see.
Yeah, the nice thing about the really small Zygus is they have an internal battery.
Yeah.
So if you're going to throw it in your backpack and climb up the hill or a couple miles into the woods or whatever, that internal battery makes packing and hiking a lot easier.
Yep, absolutely. It does make a big difference. So just want to give a shout out to Alan there. Thank you so much for your support. It's greatly appreciated. We can't do it without you. So thank you much. Glad you're enjoying the show this evening. John S says the G90 is a great little portable HF. So yeah, it's the 106 doesn't have an internal battery, but I think the 6100 does. So,
oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's hard to kind of keep all of those models straight. They just keep changing them.
Yeah, what's the little icon with the internal battery now? I'm trying to remember the model number on that. It's a 10-watt radio.
Yeah, that's the 705, the 705.
Yeah.
And it can hook up to an external battery, or you can take one of the batteries, from an ICOM HT and slap it on the back, and now you've got self-contained power. So, which is kind of nice because if you've got those HT batteries, it's all standardized for operation. You don't have to carry half a dozen different types of batteries with you. So
a lot of people get really wet feet when they start talking about QRP too, and understandably so. But if you're into parks on the air activations, the QRP is not the death sentence that you might think, because the spotting network, once you spot yourself and people come looking for you. It's not like you're hoping someone will tune across the band and happen upon your puny little signal. These guys are searching, and they're searching with some big rigs and some big antennas. And so you can sit there with QRP and have a really good time, because these guys are coming and finding you. So
absolutely.
So don't be totally scared off by the 10-watt thing. It's not like the old days. Now, if you're not doing POTA, then you're back to the search and pounce kind of thing. So
although I've gotten, when I've been out activating, I get a fair number of QRP stations from home. So if you've invested in a quality antenna system, it's 5 watts can be all you really need. So all right, let's see. Richard asks, so when is the next live show? We come on every first Thursday of the month, 7:00 p.m. So our next one will be in March. So hopefully we'll catch you then. Joe's not here, so unfortunately we don't have anything to for gear grinding. I'm gonna have to try to do my best though on this. So
you know what really grinds my gears?
All right.
I don't know. I can't wait to hear this.
Okay, so I pulled out a couple of comments that are on an older video I did on Q codes and other types of amateur radio jargon or terminology. We like to use our Q signals a lot, don't we? Eric writes, QSL, 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 QSL. On a damn voice conversation. Sigh. I can't stand that crap. Hey, how's it going today, K1ABC? Oh, I'm doing fine, QSL. Oh, that's great, QSL. Okay, time to go home and cook for the wild dinner, QSL. Yeah, roger that. And have a good night, QSL. Shut up. Don't ever use Q codes on voice conversations. That makes you look like a foolish dotard, and most hams can't stand that crap. Q codes are made for Morse and digital stuff. Only CQ is acceptable for over voice. And twerp, you know where this is going to go. I've banned using Q codes from my vernacular unless there's a genuine language or legibility barrier. These guys who repeatedly say QSL instead of over. So all right.
Yeah.
So, QSL, QS. Do you read me? Do you understand? Do you got the information? I got you 5.9 with QSB on the side. We use these terms all the time. And is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Well, if we're doing emergency communications, they drill it into you is plain language over jargon. Avoid codes and terminology that's not fully understood by everybody you're communicating with. And so I get that. It's but two, in amateur radio, we're 100 plus years old, full of tradition, and it's things with tradition, things die hard. And Q codes have been with us since day one because Morse code has been with us from day one. And when things switched over to voice, that stuff kind of gets drug into into the popular conversation. So it's not like I'm saying 10-4 good, buddy, I suppose, but
yeah,
I could.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. 10-4 over and out. Yeah, yeah. But some of them, like QSB. Okay, what's wrong with saying, "Hey, QSB," or that's faster than saying, "Hey, there was a really big fade there, and I kind of lost you." Well, so QSB is all right. QRM. I don't. Why not say QRM instead of, "Hey, I think there was another station on top of you. I didn't copy that." It just speeds up the process a little bit. I don't have a problem with that.
No, and that's the whole thing. I get it. We want to kind of stay with plain language, and not inject that jargon into our communications. And a lot of times, sometimes, when I'm talking to somebody, I'll say, it's blah 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 back to you, or I'll say QSL and put it back to the person. At the end of a conversation, if I'm doing an activation, it's always at the end. I'm looking for the next station, I'll say QRZ. Well, could I say QRZ, or I could say, anybody, who's next, or I'm waiting for the next person. Well, but we say QRZ and people understand what it is, and it's part of that radio shorthand, I guess. And sort of the neat thing about the neat and interesting thing about language, it's color. So so we got a couple of things here. Yeah, Marconi is killing ham radio. Yeah, Q codes. Maybe that's what it is. The Q signals have killed ham radio since day one.
Yeah. Maybe that's why people like FT8. There you go.
Yep. Yeah, jargon is part of the fun, just part of the hobby. Do we need the 1990s text shortcuts? It's. Do we? No. if we could do a smiley face over the air, it's maybe that's going to be the next FT8 thing, is to send emoji. Oh, yep. QSL the 73 and 88 QRZ. Yeah, we need the QHR, Killingham Radio.
Yeah.
So you get it. So, avoid the Q signals when plain language works, but it's if you want efficiency and expediency, and everybody knows what you're talking about, go ahead. So I probably not my gear grinding's probably not as entertaining as Joe's, but this stuff kind of bugs me. So we got Don here, and he's asking you a question. Where was it? He wants to know, is that an HR10B in the background? So
No.
I don't.
Oh, you know what? He might be looking at my QRZ page.
Oh, okay.
And there might be a photo. See, at one time, I don't know if you can see it back here, but this is the 7300, the ICOM 7300.
Yep.
And where this is mounted on the console, many, many, many years ago, there was a Regency HR2B that was a 2-meter radio. What was his question? What?
We was wondering if that was the HR10B in the background.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah,
one on top of your Drake there?
On the other over here. I've got DX60 and a DX60B. Maybe that's what he's talking about. No, I can't. Yeah, that's over my what is it? My right shoulder.
Yeah.
This guy right here. Yeah. And then I got my, this is like a museum. This is my Atlas 210X. Okay, so, that's back in the 1970s. And these guys still work. This is a Hallicrafter's SX111. I bought that from a buddy in high school in 1972. So, you know how old I am. So, yeah, there you go.
See, now this is the first time we've actually been in your shack, Dave, because you actually got decent internet out in the sticks now. So.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Welcome to the real world. You think I live on the North Pole or something, Yeah, no kidding. Spectrum has saved our lives here 2 weeks ago. What was about 2 months ago? They came out and they laid 1,000-foot fiber cable right on top of the ground, and it snowed the next day, so it's still laying there. And I'm just hoping that some mouse or rabbit or squirrel doesn't decide to have lunch before they can bury that thing in the spring. God.
So.
Oh yeah, it's life-changing getting high-speed internet, isn't it?
Yeah. So thankful for broadband expansion. You've been Spectrum came out, ran a line out to the sticks. So that's good.
Yeah.
All right. So, well, that's it. I mean, this is a really good show, and I'm glad that you were able to help out tonight there, Dave. And
well, we can't quit without talking about the Minnesota QSO party.
Oh, thanks for reminding me. And I even had that on my list. So we're going to hit the road on Saturday, this coming Saturday, for the Minnesota QSO party. And we did this last year where mobile rover for the QSO party, and we loved it so much, and we did great. We had like almost 400 contacts, I think it was. So it was a learning experience.
Mm-hmm. These QSO parties are really fun when you're in the state that the party is. So the Wisconsin QSO party is great.
Mhm.
But the Minnesota QSO party, when you're living in Wisconsin, it's not that really that much fun.
No.
So last year we got this idea. Actually, I think it was my idea. I'm like, all my contest buddies in Minnesota want me to come over and go mobile, which I had never
Yep.
done. I'm like, I don't know. I don't have a mobile rig. I don't have a mobile antenna. I don't know. And most of these mobile guys are running CW too.
Mhm.
So my idea of driving down the road and trying to copy Morse code is, that ain't gonna happen. So,
Yep.
so we started talking last year, and we're like, what if we went to Minnesota? It's just across the Mississippi River here. We're not going to drive all the way across the state, but if
Yep.
just hit like 2 or 3 or 4 counties or whatever. So one thing led to another, and pretty soon we had this map. And I think our goal was like we were going to hit 7 counties or some crazy thing.
Yeah.
And so you had this antenna, this Hustler antenna that
Yep.
you had acquired through nefarious ways. But so the plan was to put this oversized antenna on this undersized antenna mount on the back of my truck, and so we had this great plan. The route was all mapped out. We had all the radio, everything. Okay, this is going to be great. And of course, if you recall, we never even got across the Mississippi River before disaster struck when that Hustler did a 90-degree turn, and instead of being vertical, became horizontal. That was the end of that. Yeah.
So we had to switch to the backup antennas, which were a series of ham sticks, and we pulled it off. So it's
we were, as I recall, the contest started at like 8 a.m, and we were 2 hours into it. It was about 10 a.m, and I think we had a grand total of 5 contacts in the log.
Yeah.
So, we weren't. It wasn't going well. Yeah.
But we came from behind and did really well. So this year we're gonna have a little bit different route, and actually I was able to grab the route here quick. This is kind of hard to see, but I'll see if I can sort of explain it. We're gonna start in
It's Afton State Park.
Right over here is the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul. So
correct.
Dave lives in Eau Claire, which is about an hour's drive from the Twin Cities, a little bit hour and a half.
Yep.
But we're gonna start right at the border, off outside of on the other side of the St. Croix River, Afton.
Yeah, it's Afton State Park. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we're just gonna kind of move down the highway. So Red Wing, this is Frontenac State Park is right around here. Hager City, Hager City's on the Wisconsin side over here. Is that Lake City? Wabasha, another park, I believe. And then we kind of move inland. Plainview, there's more parks over here, and then we come up to Fountain City and then work our way back.
Yeah.
Home, I guess.
Yeah. See, last year our strategy was to accumulate contacts, mostly mobile. And if we found a great place to pull off the side of the road and call, great. But about 10 in the morning, we realized that things not going well, and we pulled into a park. I don't know if this was intentionally or by accident, but it was right along Highway 61 along the river.
That's the route here. Yep.
And it was the John A. Latch State Park. So we're going to hit that one again this year. But we pulled in there, and you started calling CQ. We spotted ourselves on the POTA website because we were at a POTA park. And oh my God, the radio just lit up, and for an hour, it was as fast as you could talk and as fast as I could type. These things were, we were logging. I think we logged about 100 contacts in an hour. And it was like, we looked at each other and go, oh, I think we just figured out the trick to this thing. Yeah. So we drove another, I don't know what it was, another 40 minutes or something. And we hit another park along the Mississippi down the other side of Winona. And it was, man, I think it's like Great River Bluff or some, I can't remember the exact name. But this thing was up so high on the western, the bluffs on the west side of the Mississippi River. It was so high that our ears were popping as we drove up to the park. Yeah.
So
Well, we get up there, and of course the wind was blowing. It was cold, and we had to switch the shark stick to a different band or whatever. And it was like, we got to do this fast because it is really cold out here.
it's really cold outside.
Yeah, but there you start calling CQ, and oh my God, I don't remember if it was 20 meters or 40 meters, but it was like working from California to New York, just as fast as you could write and as fast as you could talk. So, so the plan this year, looking at that map, we keep talking about this state park and this state park and this park and this state trail and whatever. Our strategy is going to be not so much being mobile, but being stationary at a park where we can spot ourselves on the POTA website and hope that we can strike gold at every one of these stops. So we'll see.
So
it might not pan out, but
here's the deal. So we're going to be using the call sign K0M. So you might get me, you might get Dave, you might get Dave's grandson. Who knows? Who knows going to be on the radio?
That's our secret weapon this year is my 5-year-old grandson. We're trying to teach him how to say CQ, Minnesota QSL party. Kilo Zero Mike. Yeah, it's a work in progress.
If we're moving, we'll probably be on 40 meters if we're moving, so we can get those county multipliers in Minnesota. And then as we park and bark, we'll move up to 20, 15, 10 meters. We'll see probably 20 or 15, depending on what the band is doing.
We actually had really good luck with those shark sticks last year as an emergency plan B. So we're gonna use those again, but we got another idea with this Wolf River coil on 40 meters with a 17-foot whip. I think we can do even better on 40 than we did with that shark stick last year.
Yeah, so
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll be spotting ourselves on the Parks on the Air page. So look for K0M, and hopefully, if we move to a new park, you can get us again, which is great. So we'll hope, because we tried to schedule, each park is in a different county, so because that's critical for us. We need
so we have to either change counties or change bands.
Yeah,
one or the other gets us a whole new repetition of potential stations. So we can work
multipliers.
We can work maybe. Yeah, I think we're going to be in like 6 counties now or 5 counties.
Yeah.
So if we work some of you guys on all 5 counties and both 20 and 40 meters, we could get you potentially in the log like 10 times.
Jeez. We're gonna have to make special QSL cards. So QSL cards. So
well, it's fun. It's long. It's a 10-hour deal, and I don't know if we'll make it the whole 10 hours because it's hard. The voice recorder in that FT891 is a godsend because. For me, if I start at 8 a.m. and I call CQ, we just flip sides.
You dropped all of a sudden, Dave. So I don't know what happened there, but
really?
We had a internet hiccup. So
I'm still here. So.
Okay.
But it does wear on your voice. Now, last year you did maybe all of the operating. And I don't know how you did it because it was like, we had a few stops along the way for groceries and bathroom breaks and things, but you must have called for like good 7 or 8 hours. It's
Oh,
it wears you down.
it does. It was a long day. It was a fun day. So I'm excited to do this again. So we'll be
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and if
We're
we
looking.
don't win, we'll quit.
So look for K0M. K0M.
Yeah.
I gotta practice. I
Yeah.
gotta practice that because I'm not. It's.
Yeah. Well, there's guys that take this mobile thing really
Yeah.
serious. Most of those are like county hunters, and
Hmm.
so they know what they're doing. They got the right equipment, and we're just two jokers out there pretending that we know what we're doing. So.
Well, this is going to be our sophomore experience, so it's either it's gonna be spectacular or it's going to be a spectacular fail. So
Yeah. You never know. See, the nice thing last year was we had zero expectations.
yeah,
So anything that happened was just a plus. Now we got what last year we had like I think we had the number one multiplier total in the entire state of Minnesota.
yep.
I mean, it was purely by accident, but but we did. Yeah. So now we got 387 contacts. I don't know if we can do it again or not.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
My goal with any kind of activation is always +1. So
Yeah. 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 I think if we can get Caleb to get his line down, I think there could be a big
Yep.
pile up waiting to talk to Caleb.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right. So somebody asked do you schedule or post your port events in advance? I usually try if I'm going to be doing a weekend thing, I usually try to get something out on like Twitter and the YouTube community post, so that let people know that I'm going to be doing something. I'll do that on like a Friday if I remember to do that. But that's or if you go over to my website, and I'll pull that up. I'll pull that up here. Let's see. At jpole-antenna.com, you will you can subscribe to my email newsletter. And if I'm going to be out on the weekend, I will usually put that in my weekly newsletter comes out Wednesday, the same day my video comes out. So you'll get it. You'll know in advance if I'm going to be somewhere, and that's probably the best way to find out if I'm going to be on the air for a particular weekend, is to subscribe to my newsletter over at jpole-antenna.com, and then you'll be an insider. So, all right. So, and that is the end of our show. We're really this was good. I'm glad you were able to come on board here tonight, Dave, and we were able to. I know we were going to have a threesome with Joe, but still, this was still a really good time. So we'll have to certainly do that again. But thank you, everybody. Our next live stream is going to be Thursday, March 2nd, 7:00 p.m. Same bat time, same bat channel. Coming up, I've got some videos planned for March. Of course, we'll have our Minnesota QSO party video will be coming out really soon. Hopefully my bathroom remodel will be done in a reasonable amount of time. It's kind of hard to record in my studio when they're sawing and hammering and all that. So, and it's cold outside. Production's been a little difficult this last week, but yeah, we'll get.
Yeah, at least you didn't have to go over to the neighbor's house to use the bathroom.
No, but we've really only we don't have a whole lot because my kitchen sink is down too, because they replaced that entire plumbing stack. So it's if you want water, if you want to wash dishes, everything got to come down to the laundry sink in the basement, or so All right. So that is, we'll say good night to everybody, and have a great evening. And 73, I'm Michael, KB9 VBR.
Yep, I'm Dave, KZ9V,
Uh,
73.
have 7-3. Have a good night.